We do have, of course, with us this evening, attorney at law, Mr. Prakash Ramadar. A pleasant good evening, sir.
Good evening to you, to all of our listening and viewing audience. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Earlier this week, Justice Mikee K held that the police officer who insisted that the businessman, Vijay Ramai, owner of the Fun Splash Water Park, needed the permission of Commissioner to hold a one-man protest outside the Red House in earlier February against the government's safe zone policy in 2022, did so unlawfully. And of course, however, Justice Ramai because Ramai failed to prove his constitutional rights were infringed, the judge dismissed his
The Heritage
complaint.
and Stabilization Fund was established.
Incomplete, right. So protests, as opposed to public marches, do not require the permission of the Commissioner of Police, according to Justice Mikee K.'s ruling. What does this all mean, Mr. Ramadar?
Well, to put it in context, it really is about having a meeting. It's not a protest as much, and therefore there's only a requirement under the law, Section 107, that the Commissioner of Police is informed of that by notice within 48 hours of the meeting to be held. In that situation, you do not need the permission of the Commissioner of Police. If he has reason, for whatever good cause, to suspect there may be a breach of the peace or security issues, he may refuse the right to meet, but he must give reasons for it. But you do not require his permission to have a meeting once he's notified.
All right, because Mr. Ramai did file a constitutional claim challenging the police instruction to put down his placard as he had no permission to protest. So it's just about basically as long as you simply just notify, because you know the language, of course the terminology used in law may be a bit confusing for the layman, but a better understanding is that should he just simply be able to notify rather than having to wait for permission granted to him. And for many people out there who say to themselves, listen, I want to go out there, I want to express myself. Justice Ryan did say that it is within your rights to do so, but is it within your constitutional rights? And that's where we seem to have a bit of a cloudy situation. If you can give us some clarity, please.
Well, of course, it's a constitutional right to the freedom of expression and the freedom of association, but there is no such thing as an absolute right. And therefore, there must be some measure of control to the extent that security issues and so are paramount, but it must be balanced with the right of the individual under the Constitution. The judge looked at the facts of the case and found that notwithstanding the police officer acting inappropriately, in that he did not require permission once there was notification, that the claimant himself had actually achieved what he had set out to do, which is to hold up his placard and to speak and act. After he was told by the police to put down his placard, he gave an interview on camera, and therefore his right to expression and so was not interfered with to the point that his constitutional rights were breached. So on the factual circumstances of the case, the judge found it not reached the point where his constitutional rights were breached, because he was in fact afforded the ability to speak, to protest, and to show his placard. Now, remember, this is a case that may very well be appealed, and because the very issue and the lack of clarity that many of us feel from the judgment is exactly that. Is there a degree of interference with your right when there is a peaceful protest, and that the judge may very well have found rightly, or he may have erred in his assessment of the facts. So I'm not quite sure whether the matter would be appealed. So in fact, Larry Lalo, who did the case, I did speak with him, and that is always a live possibility that the matter may be appealed.
Yeah. Well, according to Justice Ramos, he also mentioned that not every citizen possesses such strength of character to stand firm in the face of unlawful action by the police. And so, police officers tasked with enforcing the law must be very careful so as not to unwittingly trample upon the rights of citizens in circumstances such as these. Again, it's very cloudy because one would go out there and a police officer would say, listen, don't stand there. And someone would say, well, okay, why? Why can't I stand there? I mean, so the fact of the matter, even those who are enforcing the law and have a task with making sure that everything stays within the realm of the law, they themselves seem to lack the clarity where this is concerned.
I could not have put it better, Mikey, and absolutely that is the point. And in fact, you will have seen just in today's news, a reporter was awarded a substantial amount of damages for he being prosecuted for obstruction and so, when in fact the court held that there was no breach of law in what he was doing, which is covering a crime scene, and officers took it upon themselves to see that he was obstructing, and he was charged, and the DPP withdrew the charges. So there is a great need for crystalline clarity as we proceed, because these are the confrontations that we see happening over the years. As you know, I have defended many persons who have been charged with protests and so on. In fact, just recently, we saw a woman being charged for obstruction and misbehavior and so. And I may very well join that case, because I think that our right as citizens to speak out must be more properly protected and not left to the arbitrariness of a very sensitive police officer when there is no physical harm or any potential for violence, to tell you to stop doing what you're doing. We live in a free society protected by constitutional rights that God gave to us, and it is enshrined in our Constitution, and that no individual under the guise of law should be able to willy-nilly take that away unless there is clear and present danger or a real reason for doing it. So I am with you on the issue of the clarity that is required and the training, because, you know, a lot of confrontations arise when people rightly believe that they're doing no wrong and the police tell them you can't do this and you can't do that. It affects your humanity and your sense of independence, and you may respond to a point where it escalates to a potential sparking point, a flashpoint for obscene language, as you see most of the times, or some level of physical retaliation. I remember, and I think you would have been close around in those days when we had that protest against the property tax around the Red House.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
David Abdullah was in fact, and many of our numbers, they were beaten, and David was in fact charged. Of course, the charges were dismissed. We appeared for him in court. So this has a long history, especially around the Red House, around Parliament. This is where people go to express their views to those who have the authority and responsibility to get things done and to fix things. And that right should not be taken away, whether lawfully or unlawfully, and certainly with fear, which is exactly what Mr. Ramai said, because the police were armed, with machine guns across the road, and the police officer was dealing with him. He too was armed, and he felt intimidated, but notwithstanding that, the strength of his character, I know him as a very strong and a very good man.
Yeah.
He decided, look, I'm not going to be, chased away, because I have a right in the society. But having done that, he's a businessman equally, he's a father. He decided, look, you know what, I'm not going to create a major confrontation here, because sometimes the brutality that could follow. I saw it up close and personal already. So in those circumstances, there was a balance. So Justice Rahim's decision is useful, but I think we need greater training. And I believe Gary Griffith is coming on after.
Yes.
He might be able to shed some light.
Yeah, but I agree with you there. I mean, Justice Rahim also went on to say that it's a delicate balancing exercise that requires maturity of thought and action. And I want to ask you, based on your experience, and you've dealt with so many of these cases, bluntly, have we outlived the current Constitution?
No, I think what we have outlived is a sense of respect for it and to understand it and what it truly means. We keep speaking about constitutional rights, but many of our persons in authority do not understand what it means. It means that you, the office holder, those who have power, are accountable to the average citizen on the street and not the other way around. And in America, we have seen, the civil rights movements and so it's been fleshed out, where the people have the power because it has been stood for by citizens who took blood, sweat, and tears and sometimes death to to enforce their rights. We do not want that in Trinidad, but we have been very fortunate, and therefore we take our constitution for granted. But I think we need to reestablish what it truly means and to educate our citizens, and the work you do and your colleagues in the media to highlight these things is very important, so that those who hold authority must know that they hold it not for themselves, but under law, and it must be exercised with discretion, and you must not interfere in another person's right unless there's an absolute need to. In fact, we're doing this case. It'll be very interesting for all of us, where there was this protest at the Savannah, and the police used tear gas, and young children were the victims of tear gassing. And, that to me was an abomination, because there was no sense from what we have seen, and that is a case I know you will follow very closely when that trial comes up. I'm very eager to deal with the officers under cross-examination as to how they could have arrived at a position.
Exactly.
When children and members of the public could be subject to, toxic chemicals that could have long-term impact, not just on adults, but particularly with children. So that is the kind of abuse. And we had a long history where there's an eagerness to put blows on our citizens whenever we stand for our rights and speak out. But at the end of which, you will then have, after you're brutalized, take the matter to court. And if you shall succeed, then get damages. But I don't think that the citizens should have to pay for that, for their abuses. So I'm not saying that is a carte blanche attack on police officers. Thank God we have them, they protect our lives.
Exactly. And they're there, and their role, of course, is to maintain law and order. But when you talk about the fact of our rights, based on what you said earlier, it is in our rights. But that is not basically part of our social DNA. It is not embedded in us. The average citizen walks around with not even knowing what are these basic fundamental rights, these basic civil liberties. And perhaps our history is that different of what in North America and other parts of the world. Because in the United States, for example, you can ask from the homeless to whoever it may be in high office, they will tell you straight out, I have rights. I know I have rights. They're bold, they're confident. I know that. But you don't get that from our citizenry. And so it makes you wonder, what are these rights people are talking about, and how do we know when it's violated?
The late Justice Dialsing, I did a trial before him many years ago, and I had to argue points. And he said, Mr. Ramadar, you are arguing under a first world constitution in a third world country. And that was a profound statement, because when you said social DNA, that's exactly where we are. Now, we have a first world, the Constitution is excellent, but it was always intended to be interpreted and to be effected by persons who understood what it meant, that it was a sacred protection for us all, whether we are office holders today and not tomorrow, and for future generations. But when people interpret it in such a way to diminish those who are powerless, that is just the opposite intent of the Constitution. And we've never had a true struggle in the sense of a widespread understanding of the constitutional rights. And it is important. We've, of course, had, from Butler's days and onwards, we've had freedom fighters throughout our history. But there was never a cohesive, coherent language as to what it meant. And under the protection of law, the rights our citizens have to ensure that no power node can say that you do not matter, you do not belong, you can be discriminated against. And we are very grateful for the level of independence in our judiciary to some extent that protected those rights. But we also have a situation where many of the courts are suggesting that not every breach reaches the standard of a constitutional breach, and therefore you're not protected, and you could take other alternative actions under common law. And so I disagree with that position, but I don't want to go into that argument today.
I understand.
I love the social DNA comment you made, that children in our schools need to be educated because it protects us into the future. Because if we do not truly appreciate our rights, then ignorance is what causes us to lose the light.
So true.
And that if we are unaware of it, slowly but surely we accept things and we say, okay, that's just another abuse. And that is why independent judiciary and lawyers are willing to stand and fight together with our population to ensure that when wrong is done, it is brought to the fore and justice is given.
And let me ask you this finally: Are you stepping back into the political arena actively?
I have no intention at this point in time, but every single day the question is put the hand of God to guide me where I should be.
All right, closing comments, go right ahead.
Let me just say, it is very important for programs like what you do and many others in the media to continue to highlight issues, to educate and to strengthen our position that no citizen is alone, that there are forces out there who are willing to stand with them. You and your colleagues, and in the legal fraternity, there are some of us who are always there for our citizens. And Trinidad and Tobago will only be better served when we have independent, strong-willed persons standing up for what is right and proper.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramadar. All the best to you and your team, and good luck as you move forward.
God bless. Take care.
Thank you so much.